And hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement of Louisville women's athletics. A little bit of a different voice you're hearing today. Uh, this is Case as we being myself and Jeff wait on Polly here. A little bit of technical issues. What's new for us? I would say that might be more common than not these days. But looking forward to an exciting show once we get into it a little bit. Once we get Polly on board, we've got three exciting sports to talk about. Some other exciting sports that have been going on, but a little bit less coverage from us on some of those. Um, guess we can get right into catching up on the week for myself. Just been an extremely busy week for me, driving to Lexington and back more times than I can count, which is not actually true. I can count them, but it's been a little bit of back and forth and um, keeping up with that, as well as trying to stay on top of all of my regular job duties that I've got and dealing with the weird weather that can't decide whether it wants to be warm and rain or cold and rain, and
No
apparently next
doubt.
week cold and snow. Warm and sunny, all kinds of different things. But we're making it through, and we'll get there one way or the other. But what about you, Jeff? How you been?
Not bad. Had a job interview this week. Now they want me to go on site. I'm not sure they realize that I'm not in San Francisco. Uh, so need to ping them and say, hey, you realize I got to fly across country for this, which is fine. I can do it, but I just want to make sure they're on the same page with me. But otherwise, 2 trips to Indy to watch volleyball this week. So I had a good time doing that. And otherwise playing around with technology and having fun there, as
Yeah.
I usually do.
Well, yeah. Again, what's new for you, right?
Right?
Um, still waiting on Polly.
Yeah.
Should we send him a text to let him know
Um,
that we did do that? Um,
yeah. I don't know.
who knows? But like I mentioned, we can get into it a little bit here. Um, sure, we'll probably start in chronological order with earlier in the week, but a little bit about what's been going on campus this week. Obviously, the official announcement um, of Dan Meskey came late last week. We've been seeing all kinds of publicity from the university about that hiring. So excited to welcome him in.
Yeah. Had an intro press conference.
That was this week, right?
Yeah.
Monday or something like that.
Yes. Maybe
Something like that.
Wednesday. I don't know.
It's been
I don't
you know,
remember.
like I
Sometime this
said,
week.
it's been a week. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we also had women's basketball getting back into the swing of things in the second half of the week because they were not in the swing of things at the beginning of the week. Um, there he is. We've got Polly in here now.
Check, check. Hello, hello.
Hello, Polly.
Hello. We're streaming.
We are live. So we were just going through, getting ready to get into it. But Jeff and I gave our spiels on our week. So how have you been?
Outstanding. Glad that you guys were able to cover that while I was having technical difficulties, as they say in the jargon.
Well, like I said to open the show, what's new for us.
Yeah, glad to be with you. I mean, it's
that's technical difficulties are becoming. Maybe we can add it to the show. Cardinal Couple Radio Hour Technical Difficulty Podcast.
we will change the name of the broadcast and podcast to the technical difficulties ordeal each week then, with Case's permission, of course. But a so-so week for me. We had a lot of fun Thursday all by myself down at the KFC Yum Center. It was very, very weird to be sitting out there without Sonia or Daryl by my side on Media Row. And but Matt and a couple of the other guys were kind of coming over and talking to me and stuff, and the game in itself was just fantastic. This Cal team, I don't think ever fully knew what hit them fellas as we came in. Looked horrible to start with, down 7-0, and I'm thinking, yeah, here we go. But all of a sudden, the freshman and Olivia Cochran woke up, and once they did that, kind of turned the tables on them there, and did some really good things, guys. It was a it was a game that we were talking in pregame about this thing with some of the people in the media room and stuff, and I didn't think we had a chance against them. They shoot the three so well, but that disappeared against us. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that's always nice when you can get a team to not shoot their, trademark, their high scoring shots, and or if they're shooting them, have them miss. That makes a difference. Obviously, it's the name of the game. Ultimately, is you want your ball to go into the basket, and you want theirs not. So that's if you can do it with defense and slow them down, great. Or if you can just outscore them, great. Combination of the two. Yeah, but if they're gonna be a big 3-point shooting team, that tends to be a high risk, high reward type of approach. So
And they spent a lot of time in pregame taking threes. I noticed just when I was kind of sitting there at media row, uh, they did not go back into the locker room entire pregame. You know how teams, Jeff, you normally go back in
right,
and then come back out with 7 or 8 minutes to go on the clock or whatever.
sure.
They never left the court. They
Uh,
were out there for 30 minutes, having multiple players attempting threes out there to kind of get used to well, I guess the term is the lay of the land, the lighting, the background. Still didn't work.
I'm I'm starting to think there's something to the concept that there's something different about the KFC Yum Center. Like I
Well,
don't know if it is the background, um, the lighting, like you said, just something is like you see it even with Louisville on the men's and women's side. It doesn't feel like we shoot as well from the outside at home as we do on the road. Other teams come in and, largely speaking, don't light us up from the 3-point line on either side in the KFC Yum Center. The joke of loosen the rims, Kenny, always went around. But at some point, it's like,
yeah,
what is going on with the KFC Yum Center rims? Like, have we put a level on them, or like, I don't know.
I tend to, and this is just speculation on my part, but I tend to think that it might be a kind of an issue of the combination of depth perception and also the crowd and the background. Because let's face it, we don't exactly play in front of full houses everywhere we go on the road. Okay. Sometimes there's a pretty glaring gap behind those baskets.
Sure.
At home, we've usually got a pretty good crowd out there. And we've got people yelling and waving, and then and maybe it is the lighting case. You may have stumbled on something here because shooting at a brightly lit arena, and I can bring to example two of them right away that I can think of. One of them being North Carolina State, and the other being Syracuse, where those two places are as bright as the sun on a hot summer day when you're cutting grass. Okay, uh, not so much in our place. It's almost kind of an eerie kind of. If you get back a ways and kind of look at it from a distance, not sitting on media row, yeah, it kind of once you get past the lit up court, it's kind of dark out there.
It's not yeah, out there, I think is the right way to say it.
Yeah.
It's not that the court is poorly lit. I was watching it was after a Louisville game the other week, and I flipped it over to Kentucky versus, I think maybe it was, I don't know, whichever one. It was a time that Kentucky was playing right after Louisville, and I flipped it over, and it was just the lighting was weird to look at. Like you could see shadows on the floor. Kentucky's white jerseys didn't look quite white, so there's definitely something about like Rupp Arena that the lighting was odd. The Yum Center, I don't feel like the court is poorly lit, but I do see what you're saying, where it's a stark difference. It's like being on stage almost, where if you're standing on stage under stage lighting, you can't see anything outside the stage, right? But obviously you're well lit, and the KFC Yum Center floor is well lit. But like you said, it's just to some extent you could see the crowd, but kind of a black box outside the court, which could really mess with how you're seeing the rim.
And I've also kind of wanted to point out another thing about that win over Cal is that we forced them into 23 turnovers. And with the experienced guards that they have on this squad, that stands out pretty much to me as a big factor as well. It's an issue where they were having a hard time getting the ball off the court. And I asked Jeff after the game, I said, how much a difference did Jada and the guards make on them? And he said, we just played good defense all over Pauly. He said, it just wasn't our guards. He said, O was in there going tooth and nail with that center they had. And early on, they saw something in our defensive alignment where they were simply able to lob the ball right over O into that big center, and she was able to get easy shots inside. Timeout by Jeff Wallace at 7-0, and all of a sudden that aspect of Cal's game disappeared. They made the defensive adjustment with which, a good coach does that during game, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Walls is known for that. He's a on floor coach, X's and O's, call it what you will. But that's certainly the mad scientist, as I think sometimes he's been called. It's kind of what he's known for, his reputation. So I love having it because I think it makes for more exciting games, at least in the second half of the games usually. Sometimes for the worse, but usually for the better. So I like it.
The cards. Go ahead, Case.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a really big credit to Louisville with some of the adversity that they've gone through this season, and coming off of the loss to Notre Dame last weekend. You've got a ranked team coming in, like you said, Paul. Pregame, a lot of people not really confident in how this game's going to go, and Cal starts with, as you mentioned, an easy layup on their first possession. 6 seconds into the game, they make their first three on their next possession. Get another jumper in the paint on their third possession. You're down 7-0 really quickly, and Louisville was in danger, I think, of spiraling. And to Jeff Wall's credit, he was not afraid to. I won't even say burn it because he used it. He used it effectively. He's not afraid to use a timeout extremely early in the game to just kind of reset and see where we can turn it around. And Louisville did. They go down 7-0 to start, and they respond immediately with a 7-2 run to make it 9-7, and then battle back and forth a little bit to ultimately take their first lead at, I guess, tie the game at 18 with a minute and a half to go, and then take the lead in the quarter. So there were a lot of opportunities for them to get down and out in a game against a ranked team. And we talked about how Cal really couldn't shoot the ball. Hassling them defensively, both inside and outside, helps with that. If you're able to prevent easy entry to the lane, like Louisville started to do, then you prevent easy kickouts to open shooters that can then find the three in rhythm. And so it was kind of an all levels defense thing. And obviously Cal was colder than expected, but I think that it's not just that they couldn't shoot. Louisville was affecting their offensive efficiency.
And if you'll consider what Louisville did in a particular stretch I'm about to bring up to you guys, they finished the quarter on a 9-2 run. And then they opened the second quarter on a 10-2 run. And think about that. That is, and the math's not that hard, a 19-4 run, which totally turned the game around in Louisville's favor. We held Cal without a field goal for the first 8 minutes of that second quarter. 8 minutes without a field goal. And this is a team that was second in the league in the ACC in three-pointers made. So, yeah, the hats off to the defense. And we were talking with Olivia Cochran post game a little bit, and kind of mentioned to her about that defensive intensity, and she kind of pumped her arm and said, "Yes." I said, "Tell Coach Walls that. That's all he talks about anymore. Is we aren't tough defensively." They certainly were against a good Cal team, and doesn't get any easier for them. So they leave here and go to Notre Dame. Oh boy, maybe a trip that they may not have wanted to make north.
I think they probably were hoping to enter that game with a little bit of positive momentum, and Louisville put the kibosh on that for sure.
Didn't quite happen for them, and our physicality really carried over into the fourth quarter with a lot of hard fouls going on with both ends of the court. There were several times players were down and took a while to get back up, but it happens, and we're here at 62-46, looking good, and then all of a sudden, and I almost predicted it, muttering to myself, "Here comes that fourth quarter collapse." Cal was able to cut the lead to 6, but we did get some key stops at the end, and gutted out this 70-63 win. It's one that you'd love to see. It's one that you kind of have to look at our schedule so far and saying, this is one that we needed, because it could be a key factor in deciding where we get placed in the ACC tournament. Put a little distance between us and Cal, who was right behind us in the conference standings. And we are trying to etch our way up into at least 4th place in the conference standings, since that would give us a 2-round bye in the ACC tournament, which, they add 3 more teams to the ACC, guys, and they don't change the tournament format. To me, that seems a little bit ludicrous, but, hey, what do I know?
Yeah, I don't hate it. Just because 18 teams, so many teams, but I think that it makes the double bye, especially, so much more critical, because you're not talking about playing the basement dwellers of the league anymore in your first or second game, if you aren't on that double bye. Like, obviously, we're still talking about bottom third teams that would be playing on day one, but it's not a winless Pitt team or whatever. That's not a status of any team currently, but thinking historically to some years, like, it's not just games you're going to walk out and probably stumble your way through. It's teams that can really upset you, teams that are potentially playing for trying to keep themselves alive for NCAA tournament hopes, and it could really hurt your own NCAA tournament resume to drop a conference tournament game like that. And so, getting that double bye, staying rested, to face and avoiding the danger of some of those lower scrappy teams, I think is critical. You look at when the NFL added a 7th playoff team on each side and removed it to just one team getting a bye, and how impactful that has been. The bye has been since they made that change. The team with a bye almost always advances to the conference championship game at this point, just because that extra rest against teams that have to play and are scrappy. It's on or invaluable, I guess, is the right word. And so, to be able to stay ahead of Cal, which, like you mentioned, was tied with us for losses and half a game behind, is a critical win.
You also have to take a look at the bench play for Louisville, as guys, we saw Amani Berry come in here and simply say, "Hey, I want a little more playing time, coach. And I'm going to show you why I deserve it." Uh, she got in that game, and in the third quarter went on a 7-0 personal run, scoring. It was Amani Berry 7, Cal nothing, and got the Cards to their largest lead of the night at 49-34. The also other major kind of viewpoint we have to look at is Olivia Cochran scored her 15th 100 point in her career at Louisville in this game as well. Jeff, two pretty big things there. Seeing that bench play at a Berry, and also reaching a new standpoint for us.
Yeah, congratulations to Cochran on that. It's obviously a major milestone. It's great to see that happen. There's been a lot of expectations put on it this year, and some people think maybe she's not quite living up to them. That's okay. Different players do different things, but that is a major milestone and an impressive mark to reach. Puts her among certainly many of the high quality players that have come through that program. But yeah, the bench play coming in, Barry had a great, like you said, had a great day. Coming in is big. We've talked about this year so much about so many new players, 8 freshmen on the squad, transfers coming in, that to be able to start being able to switch players in and out and not necessarily lose so much ground because of the disruption of that. The ability of these bench players to come in and fit in and be able to play in the system and be able to play at the level is important. Um, a lot of times we see as the season goes on, shortening the rotation, from Walls and from other coaches and other teams. That's pretty normal to do, but it's also great to see these players be able to come in and play off the bench, even if not for this year, for future years to come, particularly with this huge crop of freshmen that we have to work with. So seeing them stepping in, stepping up, improving their game, developing their game, and being able to play it at this level, starting to be able to play at this level is great to see.
That was definitely the point that I was going to make, Jeff, is looking ahead to the future and how exciting seeing Amari Berry be able to come in and have a stretch like that in the third quarter.
Yep.
It is very exciting, but we've seen her be very streaky in both directions. Sometimes she's fantastic. Sometimes you're like, could you please pass the ball? But it happens, and when you've got a freshman that's able to do what Barry has done, or that Arenas has done, or that Taj Roberts, who is a little bit on an accelerated path of what I'm about to mention, has done, when they can turn that, oh wow, that player can just absolutely kill you by themselves, when they can turn that into consistent night in and night out performances. And obviously you're going to give grace for sometimes you have a bad night, but when we're seeing these performances 75 to 80% of the time instead of 50% of the time, that's extremely dangerous for every other team. And watch out when these players are all on it together.
Another factor I'm going to kind of point out here to you all a little bit that was to me, eye-popping is when you take a look at some of the secondary stats of a contest. For example, points from turnovers. The Cards won that battle 22-16. Points in the paint. Louisville won that battle 32-30. And this was a Cal team that crashed the boards hard, gang. They weren't standing back and waiting for the ball to bounce to them. They came in with a little bit of authority. Second chance points, we tied them 12 each. Fast break points, we were able to outscore them 6-3. And the huge stat here is the bench points. Cal did not get the production out of their bench that we did, with only 4 points off the bench. We, on the other hand, had 25 of our 70 points come off the bench. And that is something you love to see this time of year, knowing that if something happens for whatever reason, you don't have to sweat it out with that starter out there with 4 fouls or whatever. You can go to your bench and find somebody to come in and do a fantastic job. I think everybody that came in the game off the bench scored, except I think the elf did not score in 5 minutes, and neither did Marissa Russell score in about 5 minutes. But everybody else came in and contributed well, and boy, that just made me happy as all get out. And I asked Walls, I said, "You only played Nyla Harris 16 minutes in this game," and he said, "Well, there were others that were playing better than her, and so I put them in." Pretty straightforward answer.
Yeah. Funny how that works, right? People that are playing well get playing time and practicing well too. As we've heard from Walls so often. So, yeah, it's what can you say? Like you said, straightforward answer.
And so the Cards to play the other contingent of the California crew coming in here on Sunday. A rarity that we don't see very often in the KFCM Center, where the women will play the noon game on Sunday, and the men will follow them with the 2 o'clock game. I personally do not care for this format because it tends to kind of bring in, first of all, a media that does not attend many men's games or women's games and ask stupid questions. Okay, I guess you have to deal with that in the media sometimes. We sometimes ask stupid questions, but even more so when you're putting both of them in there at the same venue on the same day.
Well, the men are
I
at home
kind of wish.
today.
Huh?
The men are at home today.
I was gonna say they're not playing tomorrow; they're playing today.
No, are you right on that?
Yes.
February 8th, 2 p.m.
I thought
Looking
it
at
was
right
a
now.
doubleheader.
No. February 8th, 2 p.m. Also, you wouldn't be able to get a women's game done in 2 hours, right? And then they would have to clear.
Well, yeah,
you do usually it'd be like a noon and 4. Yeah,
It's
no,
best.
it's men are today.
Yeah.
Men are
I
today.
read it wrong. I erased the last 3 minutes of my dialogue.
That's okay. You were throwing me off because I was like, wait, what? It would be very off sequence for the men to play on a Sunday anyway, so that's why I was thrown off. I was.
Thank goodness I read that wrong. Then. Okay, my bad then.
Fear not, Paula. You don't have to deal with your with the fair weather women's fans.
I'm happy about that. Anyway, so it is a noon game. No men's games following. Set up for ESPN2, so the Cards will get some nationwide exposure on Super Bowl Sunday with I'm not sure who the crew will be for ESPN2 for this one. I guess we will find out when they get here. But certainly a game I think that, hey, the Cards, looking at this game on paper, should be okay against Stanford. They're not having the season that they used to have back when, of course, they had a different coach who was pretty popular in nationwide women's basketball. A Stanford team that doesn't seem to have that wealth of 6'5" long white girls who can jump out of the gym that they've had in past years as well. So maybe a chance for us to get the win streak going here, huh?
We get Pam Ward and Stephanie White.
Pam Ward, always fun to have in a broadcast and also to have in the media room. She'll hang around as long as she can and just chat with people. Stephanie White could be a little standoffish at times, but she is good on air, and certainly that's a heck of a crew to be bringing in. I wonder where. I guess Deb Antonelli's got a job elsewhere, but those aren't too bad, guys.
Yeah, Antonelli maybe on a Louisville or on a men's game.
He's been doing a lot of the level men's, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, for a reason. But Rocco and Lobo are at South Carolina, Texas tomorrow. So that one makes sense. Eric Freed and Christy Thomas Gutty are at Kentucky versus Ole Miss. Monday, so that's why they're not in Louisville tomorrow. I guess if that game was in Lexington, maybe they would have been in Louisville, but yeah.
Well, certainly a good aspect there then for Louisville. And so we're going to wish them the best of luck. Let's kind of.
Oh, sorry. Beth Mowens and Deb Antonelli are in South Bend tomorrow.
Yeah.
For Cal Notre Dame.
Okay. As the poor beleaguered Cal team, after getting smacked around by Louisville, now has to go up to the Purcell Pavilion and get smacked around again. Kind of makes them wonder why they got on the plane, right? Anything can happen in women's basketball. You never know. They may take this loss to heart that they had against us and go up there and say, hey, we got a nationwide audience going here. Let's go ahead and win this game and then go eat snacks at a Super Bowl party. Never can tell. Hopefully it'll work.
Take this loss to heart all you want. I don't think that necessarily changes the prognosis for tomorrow's game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notre Dame is that good, I hate to tell you. But so basketball, looking to maybe win the weekend, as they say. Moving on over to other action. And like I mentioned to the guys in a pre-broadcast text, we had 3 sports to kind of discuss today. So let's move into lacrosse. Lacrosse got their season started, bringing in number 15 Denver. Scott Teeter said that they were looking pretty good defensively this year when in my chat I had with him preseason. And they indeed ended up with the upset in some circles, beating number 15 Denver 10-8 in the season opener. A game that Louisville basically got out to a 5-1 lead on. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, who is this team? We're actually scoring goals early and playing defense. A good team and a good game for the Cards to start the season with.
Yeah, it was really good to see Louisville maintain that, especially on the defensive side. In seasons past, we've seen Louisville get a start like this, have a really big lead after the first quarter, and then you're like, oh, where did it go? Like looking at the scoreboard, or the box score, I should say, you might see something like Louisville 5, opposing team 1 in the first quarter, and then 0-1-0 on the top line for Louisville, and crooked numbers for the opponent in the other 3 quarters. Denver scored early in this one. They picked up that first goal. Louisville scored the next 5. Although it was a little deceptive because it was kind of just like Louisville scored immediately after that, and then both teams were like, all right, now we can play. It's just like each spotted each other a goal, and they're like, all right, start over. Because then they didn't score for 10 more minutes. Louisville scored 4 over the final 4.5 minutes to take that 5-1 lead. And then Denver locked them up in that second quarter. They scored right out of the gate again. And then everyone was just kind of on ice for the majority of the second quarter. Denver scored the only 2 goals in that quarter, and it was good to see, even though Louisville didn't have the offensive output in the second quarter, they still maintained a halftime lead over, you said an upset in some circles. I say an upset in all circles. Denver came in ranked 15th. They've got similar aspirations to what they've had the last few years, and Louisville's still trying to break through and make noise. So taking the 5-3 lead into halftime, and then coming out in the third quarter and scoring 4 more goals to really set themselves in a strong position. They led 9-4 after 3. It was impressive, and so ultimately they had to weather a storm down the stretch. Lost that fourth quarter 4-1. Got helped by the fact that Denver played their last 4 minutes a player down after a red card, which certainly didn't hurt Louisville's defensive stand, but I mean, it's great credit to the defense. I think Louisville was losing some of the hustle stats. Um, Ground balls was disastrously lopsided for Denver. Um, and Louisville had more turnovers, but they won the draw control battle. They matched shots on goal, even though Louisville or Denver had 16 more total shots. They tied on shots on goal. So Louisville was just really efficient, and it's credit to the defense too for forcing Denver to have bad shots. So um, Teeter said that it was. He said they were going to look good defensively. They looked good defensively. He told us Lauren Figgis and Nagai Nakazawa and Ryan Atkins were going to be people to watch, and they both had, or they all three had, I think, at least 4 points in this game. So yeah, it was. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's. I was just looking at the stat sheet and looking at the scoring summary, and at the end of that first quarter, those 4 scores in about 4 minutes, less than 4 minutes, about 3.5 actually, is that's just really impressive when you think about it, because that's you score, you do the draw control, you get it, you run down the field, maybe run a little bit of an offensive set, and you score again, is for 4 straight times basically is what that works out to. That's pretty impressive. To be able to have that sort of pace, even if it's not sustained, to be able to do that for a little bit, will turn some games around. So that's exciting to see that sort of pattern develop. Even if it's not consistent, it's useful to have those things happen on occasion.
And another factor that Teeter and I really didn't talk about too much in our preseason interview, and something that we haven't really discussed a whole lot here, but there's been a change in goalkeeper for the Cards, as Jay Pleck is now the tender of record back there, and I think you got to take your hat off to her and clap your hands for the performance that she put in against these Pioneers, holding them to 8 goals, certainly making some very, very good stops. I think she had 8 or 9 stops in the game, which is a pretty nice total. And certainly you had to wonder who was going to win that goalkeeper battle preseason. Teeter didn't know at the time. when we talked, he just kind of like, I'm not sure who's going to be our goalkeeper yet. This next week will be big.
That battle
they found
between Beck and Pleck and Hannah Johns, I assume.
Yeah. And I think
nine saves is that's a solid, certainly a good solid outing. 8 goals against is reasonable. Depends upon what your defense is capable of doing. Obviously, we've got a pretty good one, but certainly compares favorably on the other side. 10 goals against and 7 saves. It's that's a good defensive outing. You hold the team to single digits in lacrosse. That's pretty good. We've seen obviously more lopsided scores, but single digit opponent scores is a good benchmark to look at.
And if you'll consider in this one as well, this game was 10-4 Louisville with about 12 minutes left. 10-4.
Yeah. And then they had to hang on tight.
Then somebody opened the door and Denver came rushing in and got 4 goals in those final 12 minutes. But still, they held on to win, which is something to say for them. And they had a powerful attack. There's no doubt about it. They came at you with different shot selections. They came at you with different ways to attack the goal. But the Cards made enough adjustments to keep them down there to the 8-goal status, and they got the W. And Teeter was quite proud of the team. You could tell afterwards. I unfortunately wasn't able to get out for this one. I have a bit of a problem with noon starts, and I kind of have to question the ACC on why they want to give this team a noon start time when the majority of our crowd doesn't get off work until 3 or 4 o'clock. But that's just me. They're
I mean,
making a bit of an adjustment next time when we play Cincinnati on Tuesday with a 3 o'clock start. That to me seems to make a little more sense.
yeah, I don't know that that's going to help get too many people out there after work. I mean, full-time workers are going to be working to 5 typically. So, yeah, but obviously the later in the day you can make it, the better. It helps for anything. So, yeah, I would love to see some more interesting start times, get more people out there. Um, might help with getting more like students out there, student supporters doing like a 3 o'clock game. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to help too much with workers.
That tends to be kind of true as well, Jeff, that students aren't going to basically schedule their classes in mid to late afternoon as a rule. They're going to try to get those things in early, and then so they can have the rest of the day to do whatever they need to do. And a noon start time. I think when I was down to UofL, I'm pretty sure I had noon classes every semester. But
Yeah, it depends on how you schedule. I certainly had my share. I had one semester that I had, all of my classes were evening classes. I had 4 classes, and they were all, Monday evening, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, Thursday evening. So, and I was, full time student on campus. I just chose to schedule that way. So, there's all kinds of possibilities on how people can choose to do their scheduling. But yeah, noon is not uncommon. Through noon, 2 o'clock is not uncommon. So, yeah, getting a 3 o'clock start, maybe get some more students out there.
a few interesting tidbits on this contest. The 10 goals against Denver were the most we've scored against the Pioneers since 2022. Denver leads the series in us 8-4, but had won 7 straight games against us. 7 straight games against us going into the Friday contest. And of course, that ended. The win over Denver kind of marks our first victory over a ranked team since March 16th, 2024, when the Cards then beat number 20 Clemson 13-12. And it was also the highest ranked victory since April 2017, when the Cards beat number 7 ranked Syracuse 9-8. So an auspicious start for them.
Yeah, off to a great start. We've been waiting for this team to kind of come through, and hopefully this can be the start to the exciting season we've been kind of on the edge of our seats for. And I think it's the development of this program under Scott Teeter has been maybe slower than people expected, but it has been consistent. Um, they've been moving towards winning more games, towards approaching 500, winning multiple games in conference, trying to be in the conversation for being ranked and for making the NCAA tournament. And so getting a win over a ranked team to start the season is a big step. It'd be great to also see them follow that up with what should be a straightforward victory over Cincinnati next week. Ideally, we don't take a big step back off the high of this Denver win. But it'll be exciting to see how they can respond to this victory and what this season can look like.
Also, one of the factors that we're going to have to look here next week as well against the Cincinnati Bearcat squad is the weather concerns. What's the weather going to be like? Certainly, we don't want it to be weather that is inclement for playing lacrosse in, although lacrosse will go in just about any type of conditions we've seen over the years. I think the players like it a lot better when the track is dry and their sticks aren't getting slick with all the rain and stuff that's coming down. And certainly their footing is a lot better on a dry turf. But we'll have to say something to the weather gods about making it a good day on Tuesday. Hopefully it will.
Ideally, if it's going to precipitate, it just turns into snow, like is a little bit projected.
That's true. In fact, Teeter and I always laugh about the time they went out to Denver and started the game with partly cloudy skies and ended up with 5 inches on the ground before the time game was over. And that was a fun one to watch on TV too. But so moving on just a little bit here in the time we've got left, let's go to the other sport that got their start Friday as the Cards went down to Leesburg, Florida in softball. For 10 points, who can tell me where Leesburg is?
I want to say it's outside Tampa, but I don't remember now for sure.
It's in Florida. Do I get my 10
Okay. No case. I need a little narrower location than that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The Cards anyway.
Yeah, northwest of Orlando, northeast of Tampa.
It is in the dead center of Florida.
Yeah.
That is probably that is pretty close to the geometric center of Florida.
Yeah, the closest thing that people are going to probably be familiar with to Leesburg is going to be the Villages.
Okay. That kind of narrows it down for me a little bit in my mind now.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the Cards went down for what they called the spring games. And why they called them the spring games in the middle of the winter, I have no clue. But
it's never winter in Florida.
Yeah, that's true.
They got snow earlier this season. I mean,
never winter in this part of Florida.
Yeah, it would have been really cold that week, but yeah, I don't know that they got any snow.
Louisville, though, starting this 3-day stay with 2 games yesterday, opening up against Middle Tennessee, the Blue Raiders as they are, and beating them 11-3. But in the second game, running into a Liberty squad that is playing pretty good ball right now as they knocked the Cards off 9-4, and also kind of unloaded on one of Louisville's best pitchers as well. I was following this one, guys, on Stat Tracker. I wasn't going to pay the $49 that they wanted for the rights to watch it on Fast Pitch TV Network. Woo.
That's how much it costs?
Yeah,
it was pretty high. Yeah, I
pretty
looked
crazy.
at the
ridiculous.
I looked at the stream cost now, and maybe the new SID for women's softball, a really nice girl down there by the name of Kennedy Nicely, offered to people who checked it out on the website. She had a code you could use to get 50% off, which was nice. She didn't
nice
have
ever,
to
but
do it.
still,
Yeah, but still,
lot.
Yeah, that's just more than I want to put out to watch us in early season softball.
I mean, probably the best that she could do, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah. No, I don't fault her. It's the service is ridiculous, and she had something to make it less ridiculous at least. But
it used to be that Lori could get me in there under a media code where I didn't have to pay a penny.
Well, but I think that might have been, Flow Sports, might have been something.
Maybe.
This Fast Pitch TV, I've not seen this one before. And I think they're also the hosts of this invitational tournament. So, real AAU vibe in college softball from this organization. That's what I'm getting.
Maybe a created broadcast venue for the event, right? But anyway, the Cards 1-1 now. They will actually go back into action again right about an hour after our broadcast, taking on Rutgers down there, and then followed by a 3:30 game going up against Radford. So I guess it's our day in Leesburg, Florida, and it will be available on Fast Pitch TV Network again. I will tend to just go to Stat Tracker and follow it that way. a little bit easier for me. But the Cards got a big performance yesterday at Easton Lotus. We missed her last year, only playing just a handful of games before she got injured, and had to sit out the season and ruining my Otis and Lotus scenario. But Otis has graduated. Lotus is back.
She transferred.
Uh,
This is another one that we lost.
did she graduate? I thought she
Yeah,
had
she,
graduated out.
she went to Florida.
Uh-huh. Can't blame her for upgrading. But she Easton Lotus, who we expected to be a key infielder last year, did not play but a handful of games. Is back this year at second base, doing a good job. And we also got a very surprise pitching effort from Sambu against MTSU. She allowed just 5 hits and 3 runs in the 6 innings she put out there. So happy for Sam. Such a nice girl to talk to, and glad to see her being able to come out and control the Blue Raiders there. Unfortunately, Jeff, against Liberty, kind of turned on us a little bit. Brooke Gray got pounded up pretty bad.
Yeah, I got to watch the MTSU. Well, not watch. Did like you did the stat trackers for at least part of it, and kind of kept track of what was going on. It looked like we were mostly having our way on the offensive end. Lots of stolen bases, which is kind of the identity of this team in the recent couple of years. I didn't really see a whole lot what happened with Liberty. Obviously, lost the game, and that's you hate that. But it's a really long season. This was the first day of play, so we'll see what happens. And Liberty's, they're a ranked team, so they're apparently pretty good, at least thought to be starting out. So, we may struggle with some of the better teams in the country, but if that's the benchmark of where we are right now, I'm actually kind of okay with that. Stepping forward. So,
The MTSU game, I mean, I think Louisville's offense was really good. It was exciting. A lot of production out of newcomers, both freshmen and then Bree Despins, the transfer catcher as well. They got a lot of scoring from those players. The Liberty game was weird. Zabala got the start. She got dinged up a little bit. She could not miss bats at one point in the game, and so she was relieved by Brooke Gray, who also got dinged up a little bit. Both of them gave up 3 total runs. Gray gave up 2 earned. Isabella 3 earned. It wasn't great, but the game was not out of hand. I was a little bit confused by a coaching decision. And I wrote about it today in the article. Louisville's down. They're down 5-3, going into the 6th, and it's not out of. Or sorry, they were tied 3-3 going into the 6th. Was it losing my train of thought? Gray gives up a couple of runs in the 6th inning. Unfortunate. But they're down 5-3 going into the top of the 7th. And, Liberty gets a leadoff double, and for whatever reason, got a handful of pitchers that haven't played yet, still warm and on the bench. I don't understand moving Katie Thatcher to pitcher in that scenario. Like, the game is not out of hand. There's a runner on second base with no outs, and you're down by 2 runs. There's a lot of other pitchers that I would have preferred to see come in rather than our utility player, who is very good behind the plate and wasn't listed as a pitcher on the roster last year and is this year. Putting her in that position, I ultimately, that's when it kind of got out of hand and Louisville couldn't really recover. I didn't understand what to me looked like. Even if she gave up 2 walks to the first 2 batters, even if either of those were intentional because they wanted to get force outs at bases. Like I said, you've got 1 runner on second base with no outs, and you're down 2. it's not the time that you need to just force trying to get up and out at any base. And to me, it felt a little bit like giving up from a pitching like strategy perspective. And I didn't understand it at all. So
One of the areas that was kind of a bright spot as we get this softball season started is that we have two pretty highly recognized freshmen on this team in Taylor Monroe and also in Madison Pickens, who were on the Softball America's preseason list. A pretty nice honor for any freshman anywhere at any school. We've got two of them. Monroe, an infielder, uh, I think will probably hold that spot down the entire time she's here. They say she's very, very smooth with the glove, and also hit 13 home runs her senior season in high school. So we're wondering if she might be able to unleash that bat a little later on in the year. Madison Pickens coming in, a Georgia girl, came in here from high school in Georgia. A catcher, outfielder listed, playing for Buford High School down there. They were back-to-back state titles when she was there. So certainly thinking that they might be able to kind of be the new wave and the new guard for the Cards. But certainly you have to kind of, when you look at this team in a little broader outlook, we're gonna really fly the way that Alyssa Zavala flies, and we've got to hope that she's going to be healthy and able to kind of do what she did last year even better.
yeah, I mean it's a pretty deep bullpen, I think. You know, like we said, yesterday was unfortunate for Zabala and Gray both to get dinged around a little bit. Kind of surprised. Well, I guess not surprised. You know, Zabala didn't start the first game. That went to Sam Boo, I think, anticipating that the Liberty matchup was going to be the much more involved one. I'm a little surprised that Gray didn't relieve Zabala sooner. Boo could have gone all 7 in that first game. Pulled her after 6 to let Gray have an inning, I think, to warm up. And so, you know, she was already throwing the ball well today, or yesterday. She was already throwing the ball well. Had a quick 1-2-3 inning to close out that Middle Tennessee game. And when it was pretty clear that Zabala was struggling, I was a little surprised to not see Gray come in sooner. Ultimately, it didn't matter because then Gray got kind of dinged around, like we said. But yeah, it was just interesting. I think it might just be that Liberty is pretty good. You know, once Louisville recovered and tied the game up, Liberty was just like, well, we're still going to do what we do. Responded to Louisville's small ball immediately with a small ball of their own. Made Louisville pay for it, and then, like I said, the interesting. I don't know that it matters, right? Like Louisville might not have been able to recover in the 7th inning anyway. They got 1 run. They might have only gotten 1 run and then still lost 5-4. But I'm still scratching my head at the 7th inning pitching decisions. I don't get it. I don't have other words. So like it's
and Holly probably was too after the game, going, "What was I thinking? Oh my gosh!"
I don't know. I don't know if it was because they had made a lot of substitutions in the game, so I don't know if it was a matter of trying to keep a bat available. But ultimately, it really backfired. So,
and I think it's kind of a thing too, where it's when it's this early in the season, and these are non-conference games and games that you can do a little experimentation and stuff. It might just be a situation where, hey, no cover charge, come on in, see what you can do here. Holly trying to see what a lot of players that she still may have some question marks about are doing against somebody other than batting and playing defense against your own teammates. And that's what the early season is about in many ways, trying to find out. That's why a trip like this is so important, where you're able to get in, what was it, 5 games in 3 days, guys, and a chance to really kind of, just put them all out there and see what happens and make notes, and gives you something to work on. So we'll 2 again today. We certainly wish them the best of luck. See how they do. Like I say, you can, if you're independently wealthy after donating heavily to Cardinal Couple, go ahead and pay for the view and watch this one. I'll be following on Stat Tracker again. But hey, guess what? We've already run into the noon hour. So a good discussion today. Certainly want to thank everybody for bearing with us here. And let's go ahead and get into our final thoughts. And we'll go ahead and start it out with you this week, Jeff.
Yeah. I'm kind of blank. I'm super excited. Spring sports have started. I really, I'm probably known fairly well for liking to follow softball, and beyond, after my volleyball team, of course. But excited for softball. Really looking forward to getting out to Ulmer Stadium here in a few weeks. After their southern swing, their traditional beginning of the season southern swing for a few weeks. So can't blame them for that. It's a good idea, but I'll be really excited for home opener at Ulmer in a few weeks.
Should be a fun time indeed, and hopefully I'll be able to get out there for that as well. We'll see what time it is and how I'm doing that particular day. Case, what you got for me?
Yeah, just a little shout out. I gave it in the article as well, but we haven't covered them at all this season. But tennis team off to a good start. 4-1 so far this year. Yesterday got a sweep of Austin P, which, like I said in the article, doesn't sound like a lot, but as part of picking up the doubles point, which they won, so it was a clean sweep. That not only swept all the singles points and the doubles point, but they swept all three doubles matches, which included beating the number 25 ranked doubles pair in the country. So congratulations to Louisville Tennis.
Yeah.
Always good to be able to see them shine a little bit there and do some good things. Certainly, they have, I think, a very, very good and caring coach in Beckham. He really does care about these kids and does a good job with them. As for me, I'm going to kind of stay with the softball vein here a little bit. I'm just going to really honestly miss not seeing Daisy Hess out there. Got to know her pretty well in the time that she was on Louisville's roster. Came in from Georgia State. Wasn't really sure what she was going to walk into. And then all of a sudden to have Holly April just kind of turn to her and say, I need somebody to be a leader on this team. You're nominated. Being basically just having unpacked her bags and been on campus for 48 hours, right? But she took control of it. She did it so well, and the players absolutely loved her. And Daisy, of course, had a pretty decent career in her 2 years here. Did a pretty good job. I'm hoping that she's going to make some appearances at the ballpark as a fan to watch the games. I think she's still local here in town, last I heard. And I'll certainly look forward to getting reacquainted with her and talking with her again, because she was so fun to talk to. And Jared and I both would jump at any opportunity to interview her. So let's hope that there's daisies in the Cardinal bleachers this year. How's that sound? That'll do it for us. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and everybody have a great rest of your weekend. And as we always like to close with, go Cards.